So just as a public service, let me just read off this Andrew Yang tweet. I will give $1,000 a month for the next 12 months free to someone who retweets this and follows me by July 4th. Let's show why money is the answer and why this is the campaign for people. No purchase necessary. U.S. citizens only.
Man,
I just don't know how much I want to spend, having my Twitter mentions.
Yeah, careful. That gang can be very menacing.
Oh, whatever. Don't be like that. They're fine. They're fine. I just feel bad for all the asthma attacks we're causing when we criticize them. But, I wanted to give him credit because he has come out sympathetic to Bernie's debt relief proposal, but then he's got to do this. Andrew. Andrew.
Hey, at least they took SSDI off the table.
Did they?
You saw that they clarified that it's going to be SSI but not SSDI. So,
you know what? Look, why can't you just say in addition to Medicare for all, free college, and a complete universal system funded by things like Wall Street taxes, I say add UBI onto it. I'll meet you halfway.
Yeah, but the reason he said disability instead of specifying at the beginning is because he wanted to talk to both sides of his mouth at the same time.
Well, look, I don't have any sense of why he did this, but I mean, did we misinterpret what he said to Dave Rubin?
Oh, no. He's since clarified that when he said disability, he wasn't. SSDI is safe, so he just means SSI.
Social Security insurance.
Yeah.
He wants to get rid of Social Security insurance.
That's one of the things that he's going to get rid of, but I said SSDI.
I'm sorry, wait a second. He wants to get rid of Social Security insurance?
That's one of the things that will not stack with Yang bucks.
Social Security, as in Social Security?
SSI, I don't know. No, because I don't think it's just basic Social Security. I think SSI is a separate program. I'm not an expert on it.
I have to look into it.
You mean like the stuff that like Paul Ryan got? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Like orphan and widow?
It could be stuff like that. I think there's about 6 million people that exclusively get SSI and not any other of those programs.
Man, if Paul Ryan knew he could just get a direct cash transfer, he would have killed his dad.
Supplemental security income.
Oh, those are welfare programs, right?
Yeah, and they're unapologetic about canceling those out.
Well, right, yeah, and that's the libertarian kind of right-wing tinge of it.
It seems you've engaged in quite a bit of discourse about this subject while I was away.
But what was he referring to when he said, when Dave Rubin said, all these welfare programs are boondoggles?
Should I pull it back up?
Yeah, let's go back over this again. I mean, I really didn't want to do this.
Oh, my God. This is a Godfather 3 moment.
But wait a second.
The Yang Gang pulls us back in.
I just want to know, if I follow him right now, am I eligible for the $1,000? You got to retweet?
Yeah, and it can't be like a smart-ass quote tweet. It's got to just be a straight-up retweet.
I feel like I would do it for $5,000. Or a guaranteed $250 a month. Like, I would either do it for to go into the lottery for $5,000, or if you gave me a guaranteed $250 a month, I would do it. But yeah, let's just listen to it again. Maybe I misunderstood, because I want to be, I've been quite clear about my problems with the UBI. Michael sort of alluded to it there, is that I am totally down with giving cash universally to everyone, as long as it doesn't eliminate. And yes, there are programs that I think are problematic. AFDC was better than TANF because we had a problem when we realized when there weren't as many jobs. I have a problem with block granting this stuff and allowing certain states dealing with it. Yes, I do. But the idea that it's conceptually, like you're not even going to talk about the program, just the idea of providing things like automatic economic stabilizers that kick in during times when the economy is gone south, when people lose jobs, or stabilizing when people have, other sort of financial, catastrophes. or just broadly support for folks who have a higher need. I have a problem with eliminating that, generically speaking. But maybe he said something more specific in this and I just missed it.
Give or take. All right, so why not take the $600 billion that are on programs that we know are creating as many problems probably as they're fixing, if not more, and then do it that way? Like, do you think, because it almost feels like it's like a little bit of a stopgap, that you'd still have to get to that problem eventually?
Well, that's the beauty of this, the freedom dividend proposal, is that you have the $600 billion or so, and then you're saying, hey, guess what? Like, it's now a new right of citizenship, everyone gets it. And then what's going to happen is you're going to dramatically reduce the enrollment in these programs very, very quickly, because a lot of people will be like, I prefer the cash. And then this new incoming population would just opt for the dividend and then never end up on these welfare programs. So you'd end up shrinking the enrollments over time in the way you described. You just wouldn't do it all at once, because there are a lot of people in very distinct situations. And this is actually much more politically feasible and popular than going and trying to tear these programs up and from the roots up.
Yeah. Are you worried though? That
okay, hold on for a second. So there are people in different. So he said the reason why you wouldn't you would do it this way because there are people in distinct situations, and it also is politically more palatable to do it this way.
Yeah, it's a non-reformist welfare reform.
But he says, as you described, so I think that seems like agreement with Rubin.
Seems like an agreement with the frame. And I always, this is where I always come up with the New York slumlord example, which is you hear stories, and it's a common practice in the city, that aggressive landlords get people out who are in rent-stabilized apartments, but maybe they're totally not liquid and cash-strapped. And they offer them something, and I've seen things like insane, like
sure,
$5,000 to leave an apartment.
Oh, I've seen much bigger,
or what I'm saying, even less, right? Like
okay.
I'm saying as a point of like the long-term play for a family is it's better, if you can, to keep that apartment and that housing security, but you're so strapped for cash that you might take that short-term deal that makes more sense. So, and I could just knowing like being in a position where maybe cumulatively housing programs, food stamps, and so on is what's literally keeping a roof over your head. But if you have absolutely no cash flow, the appeal of the immediate sort of payoff is going to be very strong, and it might be a really bad long-term bargain for people that are really vulnerable. And that's why I have a fundamental problem with that.
The long-term bargain
trade-off.
is that you're weakening the existence of these programs.
Precisely.
And so it's a political one. I mean, look, I'm trying to figure out what the $600 billion is that they're referring to, right? I mean, because this guy, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He either knows what Dave Rubin's talking about when Dave Rubin says $600 billion annually, or he doesn't. And if he doesn't, he should. All right, let's go before that.
So why not just blow apart? So I think the best libertarian argument that I've heard for UBI is that basically if you want to do UBI, it's got the right idea. Why not just blow apart the social safety net as is, because we know it's just a boondoggle of middle management nonsense with all the whacked out incentives that you're talking about. Why not just take all of that money, which do we even know how much money is actually put into these things?
Of course.
So how much right now?
$600 billion, give or take.
Give or take. All right, so why not take the $600 billion?
Oh, okay. So his $600 billion. So I'm curious what he's talking about, because I mean, it's not Medicaid and it's not Medicaid, presumably. It's not CHIP, right? Which is children's health insurance programs that are add-ons to that. TAMF is federal block grants. I don't like block grants. That's problematic because you're leaving it up to the state to distribute it, but that's basically the best they could do. You have the earned income tax credit, which is basically a payment. You have the child tax credit. You have WIC, which is special nutrition program for women, infants, and children. Right? Like, when you have babies, it may be your need for money is more and maybe different than it would be a couple years later when you get that extra grand. And I guess maybe the idea is like, well, you should have saved to, in anticipation of this. I don't know. SSDI is not part of that, according to what you've just told me, Matt. That's about $140 billion. You have SNAP, which is food stamps. And we had a record number of people who needed SNAP in the wake of the financial crisis. That may drop down from like 40 some odd million people down, a million or two, which is based upon the growth of the country, a lower percentage of people. But that kicks in automatically. Social Security, supplemental security income, SSI, provides need-based assistance to disabled or elderly people with little income and few assets. Now, maybe giving them $1,000 a month would be better than what they get under that. But I don't know. I mean, I look, I have no problem with giving people cash. It's just not quite clear. Is this what it is here?
This is one of the big Yang Gang proponents talking about how SSDI will exist on top of the freedom dividend, SSI will not. And he has this graph here.
Okay, so in thousands. So I guess about 5 million people. They'd get rid of payments to 5 million people who are on, or 2.5 million people on, I don't know.
So if you got, like, say, 700 in SSI, I mean.
Here's the thing. What I think is so problematic about this is that so much of the value of this program is contingent upon the being able to do this with precision. And my complaint with the UBI is exactly what it was 2 or 3 years ago, which is there is a political process. And to ignore a political process, like I can tell you right now, Bernie's plan to forgive all debt, it goes through the meat grinder of, the chances of him being able to go in there without Democrats in control of both houses is, him getting that passed is obviously very low. It creates a political movement, and maybe you get there. But let's just assume that they were able to get something passed. And that bill gets into the Senate and the House, and it gets completely mangled. If the worst case scenario is like only half of the people get half of their debt, that's still good. Like, you have a lot of latitude when the policy is we think there should be less college debt. You have a lot of latitude as to where it lands, where you're not going to come out with something that is worse, right? Like, there's no way Bernie's proposal or Warren's proposal or even Julian Castro's proposal is going to come out being more problematic. My fear with the UBI is that 5 years down the road, you've now, according to Yang, found a politically palatable way of getting rid of these things. People have opted out of them by their own choice, their own free will. They have opted out of them. And then 5, 10 years down the road, it's all a payment system, and then they start working on cutting that.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing just a couple other things to note that are very concerning to me is that, one, I'm not trying to question his motives, honestly. I know that this will be the way it's interpreted, but there's different tunes depending on who he's talking to. There's definitely sometimes where it sounds like he's pushing a plan that is what we're talking about, which is on top of, in addition to. When he's talking to Rubin right there, he sounds like Charles Murray to me. He's buying into, and yeah. But I think the other thing is, like, again, let's just be blunt. This guy is not going to be elected president, And if he wants to run a campaign that is about, robotics, replacing workers, which I think is questionable too, there needs to be some interrogation of some of those assumptions, and that a UBI is the answer, then you don't need to get into all of the various machinations of how you're going to undermine other programs. You can really just run an issue campaign because that's the purpose. So when you have that, when you're just running a media issue campaign and you're insisting on putting other things on the table to pay for something that isn't going to happen, that to me is also very questionable.
Well, what Sam just described reminds me in a gross and creepy way of the concept of the non-reformist reform, right? Which is something often used by the socialist left to mean a reform that somehow picks up its own speed and moves us closer to a socialist horizon. Right. The horizon that he wants to move us closer to seems to be some kind of dystopian techno-libertarian horizon. So the UBI, like you said, would be used to sort of abolish the welfare state in more of a gradual way, which is why I'm referring to it as non-reformist welfare reform, because welfare reform was a horribly cruel program of austerity implemented by Bill Clinton in the 90s, and it seems like that's the horizon he's looking towards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going by what he said.
That's what he said there.
I'm not even making any assessment on why he said it or what he's doing or if he has some other agenda. I have no idea. I'm just going by what he said, and I don't like the sound of it. I don't like the sound of you could also, that's what they were going to try and do, frankly, with Social Security. They were going to try and privatize it, give people the option of putting their Social Security money in the private stock market. Again, leaving it up to the individuals. And it would be a disaster from a policy standpoint. I also, frankly, don't think we should do that with vaccinations either. There's a whole host of things that I don't think that we should allow people to choose in terms of what the government does. Because the individual's best interest is not necessarily the best interest of society. That's just the reality.
It also seems like a way around the labor issues that come with increasing automation. Like Michael was saying that, he's skeptical of the idea of automation. I think it's a really great idea, but if we don't accompany that with real political changes and changes in the social relations of how we make things and how we reproduce our society, it's not going to be good.
Well, I always say, worry about capitalism, not robots. But
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
like AOC said, the problem that people it should be a good thing that robots are replacing workers because it means we have more leisure time. But if we still have the same system where we all need to have jobs in order to survive and work 40 hours a week, then it becomes sinister.
Right. Well, there's a theory. That's why a theory with all technology that's introduced on some level, right? Like, this is going to make me so much more efficient. It's also going to make me on call 24 hours a day. And as everyone else gets just more efficient, I'm going to be expected to have X amount of percentage more efficiency and more productivity. And that's basically the way it works. All right, look, should we do this now or should we go into the fun half with this?
Let's just do it.